Look at Matthew 23, verse 1. Jesus spoke to the multitudes and to his disciples, saying, the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. Now I want you to pay attention to that phrase. The scribes, these are the guys that know the Torah, probably one of the only groups of literate learned men in the world. Only 3% of Palestine could read in the time of Christ. But the scribes were in that 3%. These guys knew the Old Testament. The Pharisees are the religious arm of Judaism. Jesus says the Pharisees and the scribes sit in Moses' seat. Now, we're not talking about a literal chair, but what does Jesus mean when he says the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat? Look at Exodus 18, just to get context of what it means to sit in Moses' seat. So it was on the next day that Moses sat to judge the people, and the people stood before Moses from morning till evening. So based upon Exodus 18, what happens in Moses' seat? Judgment. Moses sits to judge the people. The people stand in front of him morning and night. So if you take that thought all the way to Matthew 23:2, where Jesus says the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat, what is he saying about scribes and Pharisees? They're the judges. Now, he's not cutting it down. If you read the rest of the 23rd chapter, you'll realize it's a very prophetic chapter about the future of Israel within their day. But he also doesn't say these Pharisees need cut off. They shouldn't be your judge. No, he's stating a fact that in the first century prior to the cross, if you needed to be judged in matters of religion, who did you go to? But the scribes and the Pharisees. But ladies and gentlemen, you're not living in the first century on the other side of the cross. And therefore, any judgment from Moses' seat, I present to you, is in the wrong time, in the wrong place, the wrong context, and most importantly, the wrong covenant. Right? So when Jesus says the scribes and the Pharisees sit in Moses' seat, and Moses' seat is a seat of judgment, Moses speaks to our need for self-righteousness. He speaks to how we receive the law, how we add to the law. Remember what John said in John 1:17, that the law was given by Moses, but grace and truth came by Jesus. So if Moses is sitting in the judgment seat, and Moses has the law, and Jesus has grace and truth, then why would we, for one more second of our life, want to dwell in Moses' seat? Why would we want to live a life of judgment? Why would we want to live a life? The reason why, it's not necessarily that we want to, but many of us don't realize the release that we've had. And that, I think, is the Moses hangover. Because you see, there's something that happens when you start to drink from Moses. There's something that happens when you get religious. When you get active in your own salvation experience. I don't mean that grace should make us lazy to where we never do anything. If you have an orange tree, it's going to produce oranges, right? It doesn't jump up and down to do it. It doesn't do calisthenics to do it. It just stands there. The soil does the work. Whatever's inside of that orange tree does the work. The sunlight does the work. And no matter how many times you yell at it, scream at it, shake it, or prune it, it's not going to do it faster, and it's never going to give you apples. This is all correct, right? Why? Because that's what it is. It gives you what it is. See, believers can't help but give out the fruit of the Spirit because that's what they are. They're spirit people. We have the fruit of who He is inside of us. So I'm not talking about not producing. I'm talking about producing so that you can be something in God's eyes. I'm talking about producing so that you can be righteous. It's always been our habit to take Moses and add to Moses in order to get more out of us. A group of men came to Jesus and said to him, we got a question for you. Why is it that John's disciples fast often and your disciples never fast? Now, the question Jesus could have asked them was, why are John's disciples fasting so often? Because I don't know if you realize it or not, but under the Old Testament, Israel only had one day on their entire calendar that God told them to fast. One day, and that was the Day of Atonement. Every year on the Day of Atonement, the highest holy day in Israel, where they went in and offered the goat, the scapegoat, up as a sacrifice. They released the scapegoat and killed the other goat. And this was to cover the sins of the whole nation. God said, I want everyone to fast from sundown to sundown. From the night before till sundown of the sacrificial day. Everyone in Israel. That's one day on the calendar that I want you to fast. And John's disciples come to Jesus and say, why is it that we fast all the time? Your disciples don't fast at all. I wish Jesus had said, I don't know, why is it that you fast all the time? Why is it that you've taken a drink of Moses and decided that 100 drinks are better? Right. I mean, why is it that you would fast one day, figure out, oh boy, we feel holy, so let's try it too. One day of fasting made you think if one's good, two's better. If two's good, four's better. Anybody went down that road before with the Lord? I used to get there with prayer. Man, if 10 minutes was good yesterday, 20 would be better tomorrow. If I could pray 30 the next day, 40 the next day. I had my little prayer journal, my stopwatch, so I'd pray so long. I'd write down, I did 12 5-minute segments of prayer because the Bible said, could you not tarry 1 hour? And I thought, man, I got to be able to tarry a whole hour. And it's hard to pray an hour, but surely I can pray 5 minutes 12 times. And that's what I would do. So I'd pray 12 times, 5 minutes, 12 times, get to the end of the day and go, I got my hour. Praise God. And I'd use that little Moses hangover when I went into prayer. And I would remind God of all the stuff I'd been doing. Father, I just want to remind you that I've been praying more. Just want to remind you I've been fasting more. Just want to remind you last week I felt like $10 was enough in the offering, but I gave 20. Anybody been there? Start reciting off what you've done to the Lord because maybe he forgot, didn't know about it. Really, as silly as it is that maybe he forgot, it's even sillier that we thought it would matter. It's sillier that we thought it would make a difference.